Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is a Friday here on FPC Radio Live. It's September 29th. It's the last day in September for us here on FPC Radio. And of course, well, we got one more day and it's October, John. The best month in the world. I can't help myself. I'm very biased towards October for many reasons. Most importantly, John, though, you know, it's this show's birthday in October.
Yeah. Okay. How old will this show be in October?
4 years. I should probably know that, right? Yeah, 4 years.
I would hope so. I mean, It's not like it's 39 or 53 or anything. It's,
no.
It's a lower number, but 4 is good.
Yeah, four is very good.
Next year will be 5, which is what? What do you get on the 5th anniversary? Is it like paper or
some balloons?
Neither one of us has been a balloon because neither one of us has been married, so I have no clue what.
I
know 25 years is silver.
Yeah,
I know that one.
Well, you know, maybe we give each other Super Bowl rings or something. You know, we exchange them. I got some replicas. You know,
you do. Okay,
I do. Yeah. I do. They sent them to me. Yeah, they were like, "Here, we insist." We're like, "Please take these." No, well, obviously, it's easy to remember because I share the same birthday as our show, as it just so happens. We kind of launched. FPC Radio Month. There we go. Just a month full of surprises and everything like that. No, we launched the show on October 15th, so it kind of works out. Note, everyone who's listening, I will share my address if you decide to get me any gifts. So, but
is that a coincidence that the show started on your birthday, or is this, I mean, there's only a 1 in 365 chance that that's going to happen, but that's perfect.
It was just the timing of everything of when we were going to launch, and I believe it was on a Monday that year.
Okay.
So or something like that. I believe it was on a Monday, so it made sense. You know what I mean? It kind of was like, oh, all right. It just so happens to be the 15th. You know, just like the Patriots are happening to play the Raiders on my birthday, and I may or may not be there.
Ooh.
Yeah, actually, I may.
Interesting.
I may.
I
will
hope
be
you
there.
go there. That's
I will be there.
Favorite city in the world.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
Of course, it's my
favorite
city in the world.
And we're not talking about Foxborough. We're talking about
No. Foxborough. I spent plenty of time Foxborough and that Route 1 stretch in my time. You know, working down there, so I know that area pretty well.
You do realize that since the show launched, the Patriots have 0 playoff wins, so it's all your fault.
Well, I like to think of it as this way. Since we launched the website, the Patriots were in the first 2 Super Bowls that we covered, and Tom Brady played in 3 of them. So
okay,
yeah, so right. yeah, I'll say that. But it's essentially, now that I think about it, you know, essentially spanned the entirety of Patrick Mahomes' career technically, because we launched in late November of 2017, and he got his first start in December of 2017. Obviously, he wasn't the starter, and then subsequently we've been going since him. So, but anyways, my love for October for various reasons. You know, Halloween, obviously, to cap it all off. I love Halloween. It's just I like watching horror movies throughout the month. I don't know. Do you do that thing? Do you do kind of like theme month? No,
I'm not a big Halloween guy. No, it's another difference between the two of us. Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that holiday, but
it's okay.
People enjoy it.
It's okay. I can relate to you because I was curious about something, because I've been starting watching some of my favorite like horror films, and this is kind of a different one because it's not your traditional Halloween like horror film, but I'm talking about Saw. And the reason I bring it up,
that in the theater,
yeah. Well, the reason I bring that up, John, is because I started thinking, like, I tweeted yesterday if anyone, sorry, spoiler alert, the movie came out 20 something years ago. So if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, time's up. You can live with this. The ending with the reveal, and the twist, and the entire reveal, I think, is one of the most fantastic pieces of cinema ever. I love stuff like that, where it's, the imagery, the kind of the music, the everything that just goes along with it. And I was starting to think, like, what other like what other reveals come to mind, like endings or you can call them twists, but you know what I'm referencing, obviously, when he
Hmm.
he thinks it's Zepp. He's going through looking for the key, and then all of a sudden he pulls out that recorder, and then you had that ominous music playing in the back, and just right from that beat on, it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Every single time. That's one of those examples, John. Like, how you see a movie so many times, and like after a while, as much as you love the movie, and I'm sure you do love the movie, generally you don't necessarily watch it to the end because maybe you watch it at the end of the night and you're just like, oh, I can fall asleep to this, whatever. There's a few movies where I have to watch the end. Shawshank Redemption, that's one of them. I mean, the entire movie is great, but the payoff at the end is just one of the best I can think of in cinema. This in the first Saw as well, because it's just, as Joel points out, the story is great. I mean, let's forget about just the twist at the end. The entire story is great. The whole back and forth, everything about it's awesome. But the twist. So I was going to ask you, John, as a cinema buff, um, any other like movies like that come to mind? Obviously, you think maybe Sixth Sense had a great twist at the end.
Absolutely.
That
Yep.
was obviously an epic one, and what most people are going to probably point to when it comes to, oh, big twist at the end. Well, of course, I See Dead People. I mean, come on.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I
no, that
guess
was
yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah,
Psycho,
yes,
obviously the
yes,
original, not the remake.
right,
Psycho would certainly be there. The Crying Game, but that kind of twist came before the end. Yeah, those are the ones that come to mind quickly. But yeah, Psycho would probably be the first one. Again, film was made before I was even born, but it still holds up.
yeah,
It's one of Hitchcock's great films, one of the greatest films ever made. But I would say that would be the one that stood out.
yeah.
But
No,
absolutely, with your other suggestions were spot on.
well, and it's like I said. I mean, as much as I love, say, Jurassic Park, I love that movie. I don't need to watch it
Mhm.
till the end. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll
Right.
skip to just the good parts. Um, but like I said, if I start Shawshank Redemption, you better believe I'm watching until the very end when Red's walking down the beach, or
Hmm.
at the very least, if I am exhausted, like I will have toothpicks in my eye until I see the closing montage of Warden Norton looking through the hole. Which
Hmm.
happens to be my profile pic on Facebook, by the way. Which, yeah, pretty proud of that one. Never gonna change it probably. But it just it got me thinking, because like I've watched the movie a few times in the last few weeks. I tend to watch a bunch of the same things over and over again if I like them, and stuff like that, because I like to see every little small detail of everything that I like. Plus, like I said, the payoff is just worth it. So, anyways, now that we've gone down that path of talking movies to start this wonderful Friday, last night, John, the Lions really, I'm not going to call it a statement because, well, let's face it, they've kind of had the Packers number the last couple seasons. Um, but I think it was like, look, I'm not comparing them to Patriots or any of these championship teams, but the Patriots can have a big game without having it be a statement game because the expectations are high and they're kind of just doing what you expect. But I think going into Lambeau Field, and again, kind of reestablishing and reaffirming, I guess is probably the better word, this dominance they've had the last couple of years. I think that was the biggest part. And look, I mean, this game looked like, I mean, it felt like it was over late, or I'm sorry, early. Um, Obviously, the Packers made a nice little attempt at a comeback, but it really didn't kind of materialize the way it did the week before. Probably because the Lions aren't the Bears. Um, but I just I look at this Lions team and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, this team, Jared Goff plays well. I mean, he had that one interception early, but he was pretty solid throughout the rest of the night. Um, they have multiple players at the running back position that can do some damage. Obviously, some good weapons on offense. They have some good defensive players, but aside from it feels like they're playing with fire with all their key defensive players because they seem to be getting hurt a lot. But this team plays well and they play hard for their coach. And like I said, they were not intimidated by the Lambeau faithful. And if you saw some of the images post game, once a lot of the Packers fans filtered out, you saw a lot of light blue out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're traveling. They're certainly traveling this year. I know in Kansas City, they were pretty dominant there. In Kansas City and Green Bay have phenomenal home field advantages, great fan bases. So for Detroit to travel into Kansas City with their fans and also do it at Lambeau Field and win both of those games, really good start for the Lions at 3-1. The other thing too about their offensive line is really good. They built it, they spent capital on it, and that is really what makes everything work. And it's interesting, if you go back the last couple of years, there were 3 coaches that were hired. Dan Campbell in Detroit, Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia, and Mike McDaniel in Miami. And remember their original press conferences? Everyone was like doubting these hires. Dan Campbell was talking about biting kneecaps. Nick Sirianni looked like he was way in over his head, and Mike McDaniel looked like he walked off the set of a Wes Anderson film. And here these 3 coaches are 9-1 combined this year. Philly made it to the Super Bowl last year. Miami made the playoffs, and Detroit was really hot down the stretch. Detroit's now won 11 of their last 14, so they're playing excellent football. I think it's for real. I think they're going to win this division. I picked Green Bay before the season, but their defense just continues to befuddle. I mean, they just don't play up to their talent. That's been a problem for years. And Detroit right now looks like they're in great shape to win this division, and maybe they can even contend for 1 seed, depending on what happens with Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas. Those are the top 4 teams, I think, in the NFC.
Yeah, and look, Minnesota's already 0-3.
Right.
The Bears look like an absolute lost organization right now. So yeah, look, this is well set up for the Lions to kind of go on a run, especially now that they got that first leg up on the Packers and on the road. So, even if the Packers, because, I said it right before we got on the air, I especially in the first half, Jordan Love definitely looked like a new starter, which would look, you got to expect moments like this where it's like, okay, things looked a little puzzling. He didn't have, with no Bakhtiari, that line isn't great. What was it, that Hail Mary attempt or whatever, where it's like, yeah, you need more than 2 seconds. He got like 1.9 seconds. Like he didn't even have a chance to get into like a 3-step drop before defenders were on him. But then there were also times where he kind of, when his first read probably wasn't there, it seemed to kind of get a little dysfunctional in the pocket. So, this is an opportunity. Like, Packers may figure it out down the line. So they may be a lot better the next time these 2 teams meet. So it is a big situation for the Lions to be able to come in here and win this game, because again, that gives them the leg up. And what I think the most impressive thing is that they haven't necessarily taken the Chiefs win in week 1 as their Super Bowl, so to speak. You know how that happens, where like, you go in, the Patriots dealt with this for years. Teams would come in the regular season and it would be, oh, we need to beat the defending champions, and they come in and beat the defending champions, and then they make T-shirts about it, even though they do nothing. Miami, remember that? They still celebrate that, and at the end of the year, the Patriots won another Super Bowl. So that's always confusing. So, but we've seen this from other teams where it's like, okay, you're an ascending team, you come in, you beat the Patriots, you beat the Chiefs, and you kind of become content, and you start to stumble after that. Next thing you know, you're like, all right, well, now we're struggling against mediocre teams, and we're not really playing up to snuff because, well, we're still living off beating the Chiefs or beating the Patriots or whatever. It doesn't seem like the Lions are doing that. Impressive win yesterday or last week against the Falcons. Now this week, I can't help but be impressed with this team and Jared Goff too.
No, and their only loss was in overtime to Seattle in Detroit. And again, I higher on Seattle than most other people. I think they're going to make the playoffs as well. And yeah, I am. I'm pretty high on the Seahawks. Like, again, I don't think the NFC is all that deep, so I think you'll get a second wild card team from the West because Arizona and the Rams aren't all that great. So I think Seattle and San Francisco might be able to stockpile some wins there. But yeah, for sure, I think Detroit is trending in the right direction. This is an organization that's won 1 playoff game since 1957. The last time they won a playoff game, we were talking about movies earlier, The Silence of the Lambs was the big film. That was 1991. So that's how long ago it was. So I think everyone kind of roots for them a little bit because they're the lovable losers.
Yeah.
And, if your team's not maybe in the postseason, people might start rooting for the Lions just to make the story interesting.
Yeah, and look, I mean, it's hard not to, assuming the media doesn't overkill it, and we've certainly seen that happen every single time anything becomes cool in the NFL. But like, assuming they don't overkill the Dan Campbell hype, and start like, having like Kyle Brandt come out and do like imitations like every single segment on NFL Network. I think most people are going to enjoy watching that team. Teams outside of fans outside of the AFC North or NFC North, of course. But yeah, it's hard not to hate him. There's no real dislikable. Like Jared Goff seems like a what. What's wrong with you? I mean, is there anything you could point to negatively about Jared? I mean, obviously, short of at times his play in the past, but even his play has been great. I mean, think about this, John. Like the Carson Wentz Jared Goff arc was pretty wild if you think about it, especially early on, where Goff goes number 1 overall. Wentz obviously has a flash in the pan success, and all of a sudden, Jared Goff's getting written off, and he's a guy who took the Rams to the Super Bowl, albeit they lost, but has come to Detroit and really kind of stabilized that franchise. Because, I mean, what did they have? I mean, look, they had Matt Stafford before and he was injured, but I feel like he was too boomer bust for that. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get some electric play out of Matt Stafford, but you're also going to get a lot of reckless play, and that franchise couldn't handle reckless play. Jared Goff takes care of the football. I mean, the guy had just completed the longest or third longest streak behind Rodgers and Brady for most pass attempts without an interception. So, I think it's been a very interesting stretch for Goff, but good for him. I mean, again, he's playing great football and he's got a lot of really good players around him.
Yeah, he only had 7 interceptions last year. He got traded to Detroit, and a lot of guys would have complained and maybe just mailed it in. Well, he went there, worked hard. They only won 3 games his first year, but you could see they were kind of building something. And then last year, he played at a Pro Bowl level, and he kind of picked up there this year. They got some nice weapons there. They drafted a running back, number 12 overall. I'm not sure if they should have done that. It may have been a bit of a reach since running backs don't generally go in the first round. But he does have that offensive line that's going to protect him well. And it seems like the coaching staff supports him. And when they traded Stafford for Goff, they also got draft capital, so put them in good shape to try to rebuild that roster. I mean, you can make a case over the last 3 years that Goff has outplayed Matt Stafford. Yes, Matt Stafford won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But let's not forget the year the Rams won the Super Bowl. Stafford led the league in interceptions. He did make big plays in the postseason against Tampa in the divisional round, against San Francisco in the conference championship game, and in the Super Bowl against Cincinnati. Enough big plays to win the Super Bowl. But I think Goff has been really good in Detroit. And yeah, he seems like kind of a bland guy. He's not a personality. Mm-hmm. But you very rarely ever hear the guy complain. He got off to a really rough start in his career. Let's not forget, drafted first overall by the Rams with Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
And after 1 year, Sean McVay kind of came in and coached him up, and he's had a nice career.
Well, and look, I mean, look, you won't have to probably do much to convince me that Jared Goff has been better. I'm not going to say I'm not a fan, but the the gunslinger quarterback that I would consider Matt Stafford, that's accurate, right? You would say, because he kind of,
yeah, he does. He puts the ball in harm's way a little too often. Sometimes by need, playing in Detroit, he was behind and
but also
stats, but also some hair-raising interceptions.
Well, and I know I've brought this up before in the past, but he had plenty. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that would kill to have the players he had around him, the least of which being Calvin Johnson. I mean, for a good chunk of his career. So like that's why I don't think he's good enough to overcome the mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like Brett Favre was obviously, put his, nonsense aside off the field, but the guy was obviously a great NFL quarterback. Peyton Manning early in his career was certainly good enough to overcome a lot of turnovers and kind of risky play. But Matt Stafford, again, I always thought he was a pretty good quarterback. And the difference I thought in, for example, because, obviously he goes to LA and in his first year wins a title. Well, I thought the Rams were set up to have a elite quarterback or a borderline elite quarterback slash a quarterback that has a good season. And like you pointed out, he had a really great stretch in the playoffs, which, like I said, I mean, no one's going to put, say, Joe Flacco up there in terms of great quarterbacks, but there's no denying he had certainly one of the greatest playoff runs of anyone of all time. So, there's opportunity there for guys like that, and Matt Stafford, in my opinion, who, like you pointed out, led the league in interceptions, and he was, I mean, had a lot of talent around him. So I think he's not a guy who's going to elevate talent. I think you can succeed and win with him, but you have to have everything right around him, and that's just sort of my opinion. But I'm not right all the time.
Well, it's coming up to October, so we'll cut you some slack. We'll let you be right through the month of October.
Thank you. Well, all right. So we've really cut ourselves short here in time, but I figure we can blow through these predictions because it is Friday. So we do like to give our opinion when it comes to who we think is going to win and all that fun stuff. So, you ready to do this?
Absolutely.
Good.
Okay.
I love that. I mean, that's my response to anyone who gets we see it all the time in the sports media landscape. It's actually becoming kind of the norm and it's driving me nuts, but it's like overreacting to something stupid. Like someone commented like, wow, this was awesome. And they were, mentioning Patrick Mahomes or calling some pick six that he threw in college. And I think I brought this up yesterday. Did I? Am I? Do you remember?
Well, you do mention Patrick Mahomes every day.
So well, yeah, I mean, remember. Defending Super Bowl champion and MVP, of course, he's going to get mentioned most every day.
Right.
But someone was because he started talking about this pick six he threw in college, and the media member, wrote this entire monologue about like how amazing it was, and I'm sitting here thinking like, wow, Patrick Mahomes invented memory. Like. Come on. And so to me, it's just like it's over. It's like, all right, guys, come on. Let's calm down here a little bit. Let's pump the brakes. So I don't even know what my original point was. I just started rolling my eyes in my head, thinking about that comment, but just getting over the top on stupid, silly things. So anyways, let's do our picks. Oh, that's what it was. The home this See, that's basically that's what I was getting at. That's my response to stuff like that. That's what goes through my head, like, and I just burp because I don't really care because it's stupid. It's like, why are we praising this? Every quarterback would remember that. It's like pitchers. Like, you're gonna give up a big home run or something like that. I don't care if it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 weeks ago, 20 years ago. You're probably going to remember every little detail about that. No, John? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Dennis Eckersley still talks about the home run he gave up to Kirk Gibson in the 1988 World Series. It's 35 years ago.
Yep.
So, I think these athletes are wired differently, so they're all kind of built the same way, and, they're invested, which is good.
Well,
it's not just a handful of them.
Look, and I think I've brought this up before, but I've knocked them for doing this with LeBron James before, where they get so, like, they're like almost like weak in the knees when LeBron starts describing plays from like 5-6 years ago, and I start thinking like, do you guys forget there's like film here, and like LeBron can be a big phony, but he's not an idiot. You know what I mean? Like he obviously
far from it.
Yeah. So it's like he clearly went and probably watched these clips like before he brought it up, and he starts like reading like detail after detail, and it's like, first of all, they probably remember most of this anyways. Second, again, the access to film, it's like you act like these people are locked in a cave, and then they emerge like 20 years later and like, oh yeah, well, this play here, and it's like, no, okay, like calm down, like we don't have to be impressed with tires spinning in a circle, okay. That's my Seinfeld.
Like Elaine,
that was my Seinfeld reference. Anyways, all right, okay, all right, focus. Got to get back to picks. Let's start in Jacksonville, where Atlanta, I would have said a week and a half ago, surprising Atlanta. Now, after last week, it seems like, okay, maybe it's back to normal Atlanta. Either way, I don't think whatever Atlanta is, they're not as disappointing as what Jacksonville has been the last couple of weeks. So I would love to pick Jacksonville. Actually, no, I wouldn't. What am I talking about? I don't want to pick Jacksonville. So I pick Atlanta. Go Falcons.
I'll pick Jacksonville. This looks like a toss-up game,
Yeah.
so I'll just be different than you.
Yeah, good. I like that. I like that. Next, we have the Texans hosting Pittsburgh. I took the Steelers again. I mean, their defense is pretty legit, and they do have some explosive capabilities on offense. So I like Pittsburgh on the road.
Me too. Houston coming off a huge win last week, but I think they'll be a little bit flat. And Pittsburgh's trying to stockpile those wins to get to the playoffs.
All right, Matt Stafford and the Rams heading to Indianapolis. I like the Colts here. I mean, it doesn't really matter who's under center. I'm assuming it's going to be Gardner Minshew. But they've played surprisingly well the first few weeks of the season, and I like them to upset the Rams at home.
I'll take the Rams. Again, this does look like a toss-up game. I can't see Indianapolis getting to 3-1, so I'll go with the Rams evening their record at 2-2.
Next, we have the Panthers hosting the Vikings, and boy, would I love to see the Vikings go to 0-4, especially if they lost another one-score game. But it's the Panthers, so I'll give the Vikings the benefit of the doubt and say that they can pull this one off. So give me Minnesota.
Yeah, great scheduling in the NFL. We have 2 games with 2 0-3 teams facing off against each other. This is one of them. I'll take Minnesota as well. I still think that they've been close in some of their games. They'll get over the top this week.
Next, we have Tampa Bay at New Orleans, a pretty tense matchup the last few years with Brady and Breeze slash whoever they trotted out at quarterback the last couple of years. I'll take Tampa on the road. Disappointing last week, but I think depending on what Derek Carr is, if he's in there at all, or Jameis Winston, I'll take Tampa.
We have a matchup if Jameis Winston plays with 2 former first overall picks, 2 former Heisman Trophy winners. Bet the under. This looks like a 14-10 type game. Both good defenses, both questionable offenses. I'll take New Orleans. I'll go with them getting a win.
Next, we have the Commanders heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. I like the Eagles in this one. Look, they could very well be the best of these 3-0 teams. We're not quite sure. Maybe they're starting off a little bit slower. San Francisco's been firing on all cylinders, especially defensively. Miami, obviously, offensively. I think the Eagles have been pretty good on both sides of the ball. I think they're figuring things out. But most importantly, John, a Super Bowl loser is starting out 3-0, which it seems crazy, but it doesn't really happen that often. And I think that's a testament to the Eagles. So I like the Eagles at home here against an inferior divisional opponent.
Let's not forget, Washington beat Philadelphia at Philadelphia last year. That was the only regular season loss by Jalen Hurts a year ago. I think he pays the Commanders back, and in a blowout fashion, the Eagles get to 4-0.
Probably the game of the week, I would imagine. But Dolphins at Buffalo. This is okay. What's going to give? Is it going to be the offense, or is it going to be Buffalo's defense? I think Buffalo's certainly capable of keeping up offensively, so this could turn into a pretty high scoring affair, sort of like what we saw in Week 1 between the Dolphins and Chargers. I like the Dolphins. I just think right now offensively, they're not going to put up 70 points, but I think they're clicking a little too much. We see this a lot early on in seasons, especially. Eventually defenses will catch up, and you're going to notice some things you can do to slow them down. But right now, I think they're just firing on all cylinders. So give me the Dolphins on the road.
Huge game, because if Miami wins, they'll be 4-0. They'll have a 2-game lead over Buffalo, and they would have beaten Buffalo in Buffalo. Last year, they played them really tough in the postseason, losing by only a field goal in Buffalo. Played them tough in the regular season in Buffalo. Buffalo lost to Miami in Miami. So Miami seems to match up pretty well with them, but I think this is such a big game for the Bills in the last 2 weeks. They look more of themselves. I'm going to take Buffalo. And again, when a team scores 70 points one week, I kind of think they might be a little flat the next week unless they're otherworldly.
Yeah. Well, it remains to be seen what this Dolphins team ultimately will be. So Bengals at Titans. I got to believe the Bengals are going to win this one. I know that it's been a rough start for them. They did pick up their first win, but a nice landing against I think, a pretty disappointing Tennessee team. I'll take the Bengals on the road.
Yeah, Cincinnati needs to get to 500. Joe Burrow doesn't look himself. I don't know if he's going to look himself the entire season because that calf strain is going to be something he's dealing with, and you can't really get that thing held up unless you get significant rest. But I think they'll find a way to win. Their defense starting to play better as well.
Baltimore heading to Cleveland, AFC North battle. Baltimore disappointing loss last week. I think they're going to pull this one off, but it's. I think you're going to get kind of an ugly, sloppy game in this one. You know, and look, Cleveland. Big picture, I don't like them that much. Week to week, they're certainly capable of putting together some pretty good football and could upset the Ravens. I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go with Baltimore, but like I said, it's going to be sloppy and it's going to be close.
I'm going to take the Browns. Their defense has been incredible.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't given
that's
up
what
a
I'm
red
saying.
zone
Yeah,
score.
yeah.
I mean, even they lost to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had 2 defensive touchdowns, right? Out of the 3 touchdowns they scored, they've given up 1 touchdown in 3 games. So I'll go with the Browns with that defense. And Deshaun Watson looked a little better last week. Maybe he continues to improve just enough to make them a factor on offense. I'll take the Browns in this division matchup.
All right, this next one. You know how the U.S. government pays people to go live in Alaska?
I would like that offer. I mean, I'll take it.
Well,
I would be up real early in the morning doing the podcast with you, but I get up early anyway.
Yeah,
so
it could still be light out too. You never know, or it could be perpetual darkness. Well, speaking of perpetual darkness, this next matchup, the NFL should pay us to watch because I don't know who's going to be tuning in outside of fans of either of these teams. But Chicago hosting Denver. I took Chicago because they're at home. I mean, really, that's it. I just don't know. I'm not going to watch it. It might be on Red Zone, but then again, I mean, neither of these teams might reach the Red Zone, so who knows? I don't know. Chicago.
This is a game you listen to on radio,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Watch it on TV. Just let the radio play-by-play guys describe what the hell's going on out there. I'm going to take the Broncos only because, again, almost like the flip side of Miami, you give up 70 points one week, you better show up and play your butts off. If they don't, if they lay another egg and lose to the Bears, 31-17 or something like that, then they're totally out on Sean Payton. They're not buying his BS, and they've officially quit a month into the season. I'll take the Broncos, but again, we get 2 games this weekend that have 2 0-3 teams, so good luck with those.
Yeah, well, I mean, they may have already quit. To be honest with you, we'll see though. Chargers hosting the Raiders. I took the Raiders. I don't know why. Kind of just flipped the coin. I'm so down on. I mean, I've always been down on Brandon Staley, but I feel like even if the Chargers do something good, he's going to get in the way somehow. And I feel like this is one of those perfect games for that to happen. You're probably going to get a lot of Raiders fans traveling because it's so close in proximity, and yeah. So I like the Raiders on the road here. I'll
just take the Chargers. They have the better quarterback. Depending on Jimmy G, if he plays or not, the Chargers still have the better quarterback. So I'll go with the Chargers in this. They can put points on the board, and they do have some playmakers on defense. So I think they're just better than the Raiders. I'll take the Chargers.
Next, we have the Patriots heading to Dallas. A couple years ago, this was a pretty exciting matchup. Actually, coincidentally, I was standing in a casino bar in Las Vegas and almost missed my flight to finish watching this matchup that went to overtime and had a lot of fun back and forth to it. I'm going to take Dallas. I said before, the moral victories have kind of run thin with the Patriots. I mean, eventually they're going to have to win some of these games, and maybe this is it because Dallas is not coming off they're coming off a pretty uninspiring game, and they don't look as formidable as we first thought. Certainly after week 1, so there's an opportunity here, John. I mean, the Patriots aren't dead meat. I mean, they just have a problem closing. They can figure that out. Maybe they surprise Dallas. I don't know if that's going to happen. So I like Dallas at home here.
Yeah, I like Dallas, especially now that we see most of their offensive line move back at practice yesterday. We'll see if future Hall of Famer Tyron Smith at left tackle plays. I mean, he's missed half of the Cowboys games the last few years. If that offensive line is intact, I think they'll be able to control the ball they're better than the Patriots, but I don't think they're leaps and bounds better than the Patriots. Patriots have been competitive. The defense has played well, but Dallas at home, I think, will have enough to beat the Pats.
Well, and that's the thing. Joel brings up too. It's like the Pats can certainly force turnovers, and Dak is certainly not opposed to giving the ball away, certainly in the red zone. So that's something to keep an eye on. And since I'm picking Dallas, I'm hoping that it kind of has a little bit of a reverse effect there. So next we have the Cardinals heading to San Francisco. And look, I want to give the Cardinals some credit. We talked about it earlier this week. I mean, they are not playing dead. Although I don't think they're going to look or feel too alive after this one. I think San Francisco is going to have a pretty chalk it up game. Just go in 34-10. That's something like that. But I do want to give the Cardinals credit, but I am going to very emphatically take the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, San Francisco in a blowout. They'll have their attention focused on the Cardinals after the Cardinals upset the Cowboys last week. This does look like a 34-10. Maybe more of a blowout because San Francisco can score a lot of points. I think they've had 8 or 9 straight regular season games with 30 or more points. Why would they stop now?
Right, exactly. So, all right, the big matchup: Patrick Mahomes and Zach Wilson. That's right, everyone's favorite quarterback in New York, Zach Wilson. No, actually, I don't think anyone likes Zach Wilson in New York, except for Robert Saleh.
Jones does, because now all the attention's on Zach Wilson.
That's true.
Daniel Jones is clearly the best quarterback in New York, followed by probably Joe Namath.
Yeah.
So, I think he liked them.
Sure. No.
I go to Zach Wilson.
That's a great point. But unfortunately, we don't get the Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes matchup that we've been kind of waiting for the last couple of years, but just hasn't materialized. And we wonder if it ever will, especially if they don't meet next year. So, but obviously, I like Kansas City on this one. I think they're I will be interested to see how the Chiefs' offense goes up against this defense. Now, I think the Jets' defense is still pretty good, and I don't. We were talking earlier in the season, like maybe they're one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. I don't know if that's the case, but I do think it's crazy what a good offense can do to your defense, don't you think, John? It's funny how that works, but I don't. I think they'll be good enough to give Kansas City some fits, especially because Kansas City hasn't necessarily been running on all 4 cylinders or whatever, 6 cylinders, whatever you want to call them, this season so far on offense. So that'll be kind of the big thing, the game within the game, because I expect obviously that the Chiefs to win. It's more about what's going to happen within that game for them offensively, especially because I think we can trust their defense against that's been very good already against Zach Wilson. So give me the Chiefs pretty comfortably, but the intrigue is how they play offensively.
Right, yeah, because the Jets still do have a good defense. If they had any creativity, maybe put Sauce Gardner on Jason Kelsey, but the Jets aren't very creative defensively, kind of do their thing. I think it might be closer than anticipated. It's like a 10-point spread, Kansas City on the road, but Kansas City will find a way to win. They're just, they're the team. They're the team that finds ways to win, and the Jets are the team that finds way to lose.
I'm not going to lie. I, too, would like to see Eagles offensive lineman Jason Kelsey go one-on-one with Sauce Gardner.
Right. Well, the better Kelsey. I think Jason Kelsey, I think they're both going to be Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
But Jason might play his position even better than Travis.
Although, linemen don't get the glory.
Swift, obviously. Yeah. So, but he's a Super Bowl winner too.
Yeah. No. Oh, sure. No, I'm not knocking that, but it would be funny.
He's a nimble center. I think he could do some work on Sauce Gardner.
It'd be funny. Yeah, so Sauce might have to change.
Put some weight on.
Yeah. Wonder why it's not called Gravy Gardner, right? Isn't that what you Italians do?
That's right. If he's in New York, and New York is an Italian city, he's got to change his name to Gravy
right.
Gardner, which rhymes nicely. It has that alliteration. So
Gravy Gardner, I like it.
That. Gravy Gardner, yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've hit our peak, so we should probably we should probably say goodbye for the night, or for the day. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll obviously be back Monday to give our Monday Night Football thoughts. Giants hosting the Seahawks. John's Seahawks. He's a big fan. He's got number 12 fan shirt. He's wearing it right now, actually. But we'll be back to talk about that game and, of course, talk about everything we saw on Sunday. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you then. October. That's right. It's going to be October, John. October. Have a good one, folks.